Do not neglect muscle groups while you work on weak points. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not following or subscribed, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop a comment down below, I would greatly appreciate that. And maybe let me know what your weak points are. And I think that would be a great thing for people to mention, where they feel their weak points are. And I don't think this applies to just bodybuilding. It can apply to powerlifting, strength sports. In other words, when you have something that you want to bring up or you need to bring up because it's been undertrained or neglected, I think one of the worst things you can do is to back off completely on other stuff, right? And to just stop training it. And I see that a lot. I'll see guys who will say silly stuff like, well, my arms are really dominant and my chest sucks. Could I just quit training my arms while my chest catches up? Does anyone see how silly that is? And I know their logic where they're like, how about I quit training legs while my upper body catches up, if they're like that. Or I've seen people who say, I really need to bring my squats and deadlifts up in my legs. Can I cut back and just do my whole upper body maybe once a week for a couple sets? And they just want to start skipping stuff and take it down below any sort of effective volume. And when you ask people why they want to do this, they'll say stuff like, well, because I just don't want to use up resources on the main muscle group. If I just back off, it'll need less calories. It won't use up the protein. And it's like the protein one is a really strange take. Are you only eating 50 grams of protein? Like what? You're worried about losing a gram of protein? Eat half a slice of bread? And people are like, stop, think about that for a minute. People, you do know that we eat all the protein due to keep certain things with our thermic effect, our amino acid pool and everything going. Very little protein that you eat is contributing to actual new tissue growth. And I don't think people get that. They're thinking, oh man, I bet at least 20, 30 grams of the protein a day I eat is going to build new muscle. No, it's like 2 grams, guys. Okay. That's why muscle growth caps at a certain point. It's lower than we think it does, but then there's other metabolic benefits. Like we don't usually eat really high protein to gain more muscle. It doesn't pass a fairly low threshold, about 1.6 grams or so per kilogram of body weight. Okay, a lot of times we're doing it for satiety, metabolic benefits, thermic effect, right? Controlling hunger, controlling, get energy in, energy out. In fact, I'd make the case that if someone's struggling to gain muscle and struggling to gain body weight, like they can't gain anything, like too much protein would not be a good thing, because protein's great for fat loss and retaining muscle, like large amounts, due to suppressing appetite, higher thermic effect. But people get this idea of like, no, you're not wasting resources. I mean, and how much do you really think you're spending on the growing? Are you struggling to eat? So when someone says that, my thoughts are you struggling to eat enough? Like, well, then I'm just thinking maybe I could just eat at maintenance in the weak part of it, but you're going to grow at maintenance anyways. And backing off on the other is not going to help you. And it's just not wise. And I'm not saying to push the strongest body parts to their absolute limits all the time. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to back off, right? You can see me doing that a little bit. My lower body, my squats, my deadlifts and stuff do outpace my upper body a little bit. And since I'm doing some of my old school stuff, I'm doing closer to maintenance type while I'm cutting on the lower body. I'm coming in and just doing Widowmaker squats. Really just one top set of squats 3 times a week. And then deadlifts obviously hit quads, but really that's my quad work at the moment, And make sure I do calves every day. But, realistically, that's still a reasonable training response, right? We're not just not training the legs. We're not pushing hard sets, right? We're not pushing volumes too low to get an adaptation. So that's kind of the point with some of that. You're not completely backing off ever on anything. Like you definitely don't quit training it. I've seen people do that. They're just like, well, could I just do, and then but their idea of maintenance is much less. Like it's like taking sets 3, 4 reps from failure and doing 1 or 2 sets. No, you need to actually train them. But can your weaker links get some higher priority? Yeah, absolutely. You know, adding a few extra sets, pushing the sets a little harder. Yeah, absolutely. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that as long as you're not overtraining those things. And I think we have to keep that in mind too. Are you pushing those muscles until we're getting tendon issues? You know, are you having problems there? Well, you need to think about those things and be aware of those things. You absolutely need to be thinking about those things. But if you're not taking them to the point where you're having that, sure. But here's the problem. When you back off on the other stuff, you're going to potentially create other muscle imbalances. Okay, and I think people forget about that too. They're not thinking about the fact that those other muscle groups may be important support muscles for the stuff you're doing. Okay, they're going to affect the balance of everything, and sometimes it's going to adjust your form and things on other stuff. Okay, so if you have certain muscles that you're backing off on enough that they're shrinking, which is the concern, right? That they're shrinking or getting weaker, and then you're losing certain stabilizers you might need. Again, there's no point in that. And I think the thing that people forget, it's not like training your legs is going to make your arms grow slower. It's not like training your arms is going to make your legs grow slower. Okay? Could we be looking at total systemic recovery? Sure. Like, let's say you're in a calorie deficit. Yeah, you can only do so much leg work, heavy leg work, you know, because of, again, recovery factors. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't train legs, obviously. So again, people get these strange ideas about just not training, and I've seen it a lot, and it's really strange where they're like, can I just skip this or take it down to just training it once a week with almost no real work? And it's like, no, don't do that. Don't shortchange yourself. If you have a weak point, keep training at least your minimum volumes to see growth, because you still need your strong muscle groups to make some progress. Like, of course you do. Just put more effort into the areas where you need more work. Right? And that's even could be things like more stuff to get blood flow to them, more band work and stuff to those areas to help them recover with some active recovery, build blood flow, tendons, right? Things like that, because that can be just as much of a problem as anything. So again, this idea of not training dominant body parts to work on weak links, I can't get behind that from a muscle balance or an injury risk perspective. It just doesn't make sense, because it's not going to help the other muscles grow faster. Training them is going to make them grow faster.